Imagine walking through a forest at twilight. The world around you seems to sleep, moving along familiar paths, guided by the comfort of the crowd. You notice the soft rustle of leaves underfoot, the way shadows stretch and twist between the trunks, forming shapes that others would call random. But you sense their silent meaning. You see a tree leaning in the opposite direction, its branches bending towards some hidden truth, its bark scarred yet alive, speaking in a language only your eyes can translate. A wind brushes against your skin differently here, carrying whispers that seem to echo your own thoughts. The thoughts no one else acknowledges. What happens when we see what others fail to notice? When our gaze touches what remains invisible, when we perceive layers of reality hidden beneath the surfaces everyone else accepts without question. Jean-Paul Sartre warns us that there is a danger in such clarity, a risk that can be both liberating and profoundly lonely. To see what others cannot is to hold a fragile truth in your hands, a truth that may illuminate, but also alienate, a truth that sets you apart and yet reveals the depth of what it means to exist. Today, I invite you to walk with me through this forest of consciousness, to explore the tension between what is seen and what is ignored, between the reality we share and the truths that dwell in silence. This is not just a journey of perception, but a journey into the heart of solitude, into the quiet spaces, where clarity begins to whisper, where awareness stretches and tests the limits of our courage and our compassion. Sartre reminds us that human consciousness is behits nature, an observer and a judge. To see beyond the obvious gives us a quiet power, the ability to discern what others overlook. But this power is never innocent. There is a weight, an invisible burden that comes to those who dare to look deeper. Consider someone who notices tension in a friendship, perceives the shadow behind a smile, senses the fear hidden beneath laughter, while everyone else moves on, laughing and distracted. This person feels a subtle imbalance, a thread connecting what is seen to what is ignored. Consciousness becomes a mirror that can be uncomfortable, reflecting truths no one else wishes to confront. This is the essence of solitude born from clarity, a solitude that walks alongside insight, whispering that understanding often comes at a cost. And here lies the danger. Seeing what others do not see does not guarantee understanding or acceptance. On the contrary, it can isolate, separate, even torment. Sartre spoke of the gaze of the other, of how the perception of others defines and limits us. When you perceive what remains invisible to the rest, you begin to understand that the reality we share is, in large part, a collective illusion, a comforting narrative constructed to avoid discomfort. You see the cracks in the facade, the shadows behind every carefully painted smile, the hidden fear that clings to quiet voices. At first, this insight may feel like a gift, a secret knowledge that sets you apart, elevates your awareness, and sharpens your perception of the world. But over time, the very clarity that once felt empowering begins to weigh on you, a subtle tension that separates you from those who walk blindly, blissfully unaware. You notice the small injustices that go unchallenged, the patterns of denial in daily life, the unspoken truths that everyone else avoids acknowledging. You realize that being awake to these invisible layers is a solitary path, one that demands courage and an unwavering commitment to authenticity. And yet, even in the solitude, there is a strange beauty. To see what others overlook is to touch the raw texture of life, to witness the hidden rhythms, the unspoken connections that shape existence. It is both a burden and a privilege, a double-edged awareness that teaches us about the fragility of comfort and the complexity of human experience. Walking this path, you become both observer and participant, caught between the comfort of conformity and the unsettling freedom of truth, learning that insight comes with both pain and liberation. Sartre suggests that with this vision comes a moral responsibility. Seeing what others do not is not merely an act of perception, it is a call to decide, to intervene, to bear witness. And yet, the world is often unprepared for such revelations. You find yourself at a crossroads, to remain silent and be accepted, to blend into the comforting illusions of the crowd, or to speak and risk discomfort, judgment, even rejection. This tension shapes our existence, defining the way we navigate relationships, choices, and our own authenticity. In daily life, consider the small moments, You notice a colleague's exhaustion hidden behind forced smiles, a friend's sadness concealed by laughter, a stranger's anxiety masked by polite conversation. Awareness compels you to respond, to act with intention. Yet acting is never without risk. To illuminate truths that others avoid is to stir unease, to disrupt routines, to challenge the narratives that keep people safe from their own discomfort. And so the observer becomes vulnerable, exposed in a world that prefers the comfort of ignorance over the discomfort of truth. This is the paradox of insight. The very clarity that allows us to see the world deeply also makes us painfully aware of the fragility and resistance that inhabit those around us. It is a solitude born not of distance, but of perception. A reminder that understanding carries its own cost, and that the courage to act with awareness is a form of quiet heroism, a path few are willing to walk. The paradox of clarity is fascinating. To see what others cannot see liberates us, yet it also exposes our vulnerabilities. It is like holding a light in a vast darkness. The illumination reveals beauty, patterns, and hidden truths, but it also casts long shadows that no one else is willing to face. Imagine walking through a crowded street, sensing the quiet despair and hurried footsteps, the invisible weight of unseen struggles pressing down on each passerby, while they remain engrossed in their routines. You perceive the fragile threads that connect life's hidden moments, the fleeting gestures, the subtle hesitations, the unspoken grief that whispers in the spaces between words. The world continues in its comforting blindness, and you, awake to the invisible, become both witness and outsider. And yet, within this solitude lies a unique form of freedom, for in perceiving what others ignore, you are no longer confined by illusions or collective complacency. You can act with awareness, choose with authenticity, and inhabit a depth of experience that the majority may never glimpse. The gift and the burden intertwine, the clarity that illuminates life's hidden textures also distances us from those who would rather remain unseeing. It is in this tension that we begin to understand the true price of insight, the quiet costs of awareness, and the courage required to navigate a world that often fears the light of consciousness. The paradox is simple and cruel. To truly see is to be awake. To be awake is to be aware of both the beauty and the suffering that the world tries to hide, and in that awareness lies both the liberation and the weight of existence. Yet within this solitude and weight, there is a profound beauty. To see what others overlook is to witness the subtle textures of life, the hidden patterns, the fleeting moments that go unnoticed, the connections invisible to the casual eye. Imagine standing on a quiet hill at dawn, watching lights spill over a sleeping town, noticing how shadows bend differently on rooftops, how the wind carries a scent no one else perceives. This awareness is not merely observation. It is communion with reality itself, a recognition of the layers that compose existence. Seeing the unseen allows us to act with intentionality, to choose paths that reflect our deepest understanding of the world. It grants a kind of intimacy with truth that is inaccessible to those who move blindly, content with surface appearances. And yet, this intimacy is demanding. It asks for courage, for honesty, for a willingness to confront discomfort in ourselves and others. It is a form of awakening that does not promise ease or acceptance, but it offers something far more valuable: authenticity, a life lived in alignment with perception and conscience. When we perceive what remains invisible, we are called to navigate existence with a depth that is rare, a presence that is attentive, and a commitment to truth that surpasses convenience. The challenge is immense, but the reward is subtle and transformative. The ability to see life fully in all its complexity, its beauty and its hidden sorrows, and to respond in a way that honors the reality beneath the veil. To see what others do not see is to carry a quiet burden. Awareness pierces the comfort of collective illusions and exposes the fragile truths that dwell beneath everyday life. You notice the small injustices ignored by the crowd, the silent struggles that people hide behind polite smiles, the unspoken fears that ripple through their gestures. This insight can be painful, isolating, even disorienting. It creates a tension between the world as it appears and the world as it truly is, a tension that demands courage and endurance. Sartre reminds us that with consciousness comes responsibility, the responsibility to act, to bear witness, to confront, and sometimes to endure the resistance of others who are not ready for such clarity. The weight of this vision is heavy, yet it is not meaningless. Within it lies the opportunity for growth, for profound understanding, for a life guided by truth rather than convenience. To perceive the unseen is to recognize the depth of existence, the intricate web of causes and consequences, joys and sufferings, hidden beneath the surface of ordinary life. It is a transformative awareness, one that reshapes our values, our choices, and the very way we inhabit the world. The solitude it brings is not emptiness, but a space where clarity and reflection can flourish, where we come to understand the profound complexity of life and the delicate responsibility of being awake to it. There is a freedom that comes with seeing what others cannot. It is the freedom to choose with awareness, to act with intention, to live in alignment with truth, rather than the illusions that comfort the majority. Imagine walking through a city alive with hidden stories, sensing the quiet despair, the masked hopes, the unnoticed struggles. While most pass through life unconsciously, you perceive the currents beneath the surface, the fragile threads connecting one life to another, the delicate interplay of light and shadow that shapes human existence. This awareness allows you to respond authentically, to speak with integrity, to act in accordance with your understanding rather than conforming to expectation. Yet, freedom is never easy. To live in truth is to encounter resistance, misunderstanding, even rejection. Those who are unseeing may view your clarity as a threat, a challenge to their comfort, and you may feel the sting of isolation. But the paradox remains. The very insight that separates you from the complacent crowd is the same insight that grants you the deepest form of liberty. To see more, to feel more, to understand more, is to awaken to life's fullness. And in that awakening lies the capacity for authentic joy, compassion, and creative engagement with the world. True freedom emerges not from ignorance, but from the courage to bear witness to the unseen, to navigate its complexities with presence, and to inhabit a reality that many do not even notice exists. And yet, even with this freedom, there is a cost. To see what others do not see is to walk a path often lonely and misunderstood. You may feel the quiet weight of separation, a distance from those who prefer comfort over clarity, ignorance over insight. Imagine standing on the edge of a crowd, observing their routines, their laughter, their blind contentment, while you perceive the subtle fractures beneath the surface. The clarity you hold is both a gift and a burden, a light that illuminates beauty and pain alike. Sartre warns that such vision is dangerous, not because seeing is wrong, but because it forces confrontation with the world, with others, and most profoundly, with yourself. To awaken to truths hidden from the majority is to become aware of the fragility of comfort, the illusions that sustain daily life, and the courage required to remain steadfast in perception. And in that awareness, a quiet transformation begins. The loneliness that once felt like a punishment becomes a space for reflection, for depth, for understanding. The risk of rejection, of discomfort of being apart from the collective, becomes the very terrain in which authenticity takes root. And slowly, you realize that this solitude is not emptiness, is the fertile ground where consciousness, insight, and integrity can flourish, where the unseen becomes a companion rather than a burden. In the midst of this solitude, there is a subtle power that emerges. To perceive what others do not see is to become intimately acquainted with truth, to recognize the depth and complexity of existence in a way few ever experience. You begin to understand the rhythms of life that remain invisible to the distracted eye, the silent beauty of fleeting moments, the quiet courage of ordinary lives moving through unseen struggles. This insight allows you to act with intention, to engage with the world from a place of authenticity rather than habit, from awareness rather than ignorance. The burden of clarity transforms into a kind of empowerment. You see the hidden possibilities that others overlook, the delicate opportunities to make choices aligned with conscience and courage. And yet, this empowerment is tempered by humility. The clarity that grants you freedom does not make life simple. It reveals contradictions, paradoxes, and the fragility of human understanding. But within these contradictions lies the profound gift of living awake, the ability to navigate existence with presence, to respond to the unseen with compassion, and to honor the hidden truths that shape every life around you. The danger Sartre spoke of is real, yet within that danger lies a form of liberation, a chance to inhabit the world fully, to perceive life in all its hidden dimensions, and to embrace the responsibility that comes with insight. And here we reach the heart of the paradox. Seeing what others do not see is both a burden and a liberation. The clarity that isolates you from the complacent crowd also opens a door to profound freedom. In perceiving the hidden layers of existence, you are no longer bound by illusions or collective convenience. You feel the weight of responsibility, the quiet challenge of acting with awareness, but you also experience the subtle exhilaration of living authentically. Imagine standing at the edge of a vast landscape, observing not just the surface, but the unseen patterns beneath the currents of life, the hidden struggles, the delicate interconnections that give meaning to existence. To awaken to this unseen reality is to accept both risk and reward. The risk of loneliness, misunderstanding, and discomfort, and the reward of depth, clarity, and presence. Sartre reminds us that awareness demands courage, yet it offers a richness of experience unattainable to those who choose the safety of blindness. And in this duality, a transformation occurs. The solitude becomes a companion, the burden becomes insight, and the clarity that once threatened isolation now illuminates the path to authenticity, freedom, and profound engagement with life itself. So, if you ever feel that you see more than those around you, do not despair. This vision is not a punishment. It is a quiet privilege, a gift that Sartre illuminates with both rigor and tenderness. Learn to walk with this lucidity, to hold it with balance, to share it wisely with those prepared to receive it. Understand that solitude is not emptiness, but the space where truth can take root, where awareness can flourish, and where life can be experienced in its full depth and richness. Embrace the responsibility of seeing the unseen, the courage to act with intention, and the freedom to live authentically. Let your awareness guide you, quietly and persistently, to navigate existence with presence, compassion, and integrity. And remember, the light you carry may reveal what others cannot yet see, but in that illumination lies the deepest form of liberation of life, awake, alive, and profoundly your own.